talks about to rise again, or to return to a state of existence that we previously experienced. And the state of existence that we previously experienced is not the mother's womb. The state of existence that I'm referencing is the state of beginning, where everything started. When we look at the state of beginning, we look at what Genesis begins with. Bereshit bara Elohim etra wa, I'm sorry, Shemayim wa etra. Beginning created Elohim, heaven and earth. So it's talking about, beginning is talking about bringing into existence the holy breath, or the holy breath bringing everything into existence that exists. And in bringing everything into existence that exists, it also brings into existence enlightenment and confusion, light and darkness, heaven and earth. Are you following me? Now, why is it necessary, and I'm going to get back to this in a moment, but why is it necessary for there to be light and darkness? Why is it necessary? Why is it that since the Creator is light, Ein Sof is light, and so why is it that that light would bring into existence confusion or darkness? Why is that so? Or unrightness, for that matter. Why is that so? Because when we talk about evil, we're talking about to be unright. So why would that happen? Well, it is necessary for that to be. And the reason it was necessary for that to be is if it were not for confusion, if it were not for the existence of darkness, there would be no free will. Can you see that? There would be no free will. The only thing that would be is enlightenment, and we would not be at this point. We wouldn't even be here. I don't know where we'd be, but we wouldn't be here. Okay. When what Jesus' purpose is when he approaches Bethany, he realizes even before then he knows his purpose for being here, and his purpose is to teach mankind by example how to be what he was in his first existence at beginning, and to teach it was not so much teaching mankind something that mankind did not know or that did not exist in man himself, but teaching him in the sense of bringing forth that which is in every one of us. Bringing forth the whole concept of who we are. For example, when Psalm 82 said, "I say that ye are gods." I say that you are Elohim. How do you become that? How is it that you rise to the occasion to exist in this earth as Elohim? Why is it that we were created in that image? And while we're in the beginning creating that image, the reason is because we are co-creators with the Creator. Now, when we began to buy into the darkness or buy into the sense of confusion, that is when things began to congeal. Now, how do we get back to that place? Well, one of the ways we get back to that place primarily is recognizing the baggage that we have. When we are able to travel through as opposed to stopping in, what I mean by this is traveling through circumstances, traveling through negative attitudes, moving through all of the things that beset us, moving through all the things that cause us to stop. When we are able to move through that, that is our being disconnected from or the baggage that we are carrying. Now, you say, well, we always talk about carrying a lot of baggage. And when we talk about carrying a lot of baggage, usually it is stuff that have existed in our past. But I promise you, your baggage exists in your present. And your baggage is the attitude that you have with your spouse. Your baggage may be your children. Your baggage may be your job, attitude towards it. Things that create circumstances of confusion or circumstances that you rather not have exist. When that happens, when those things happen, that is your baggage. And in order for us to become the light that we are supposed to be, we must pass through those instances as opposed to stopping in the midst of them and allowing them to become our gods. And the way a circumstance become your God is fear. Because the word fear in the Hebrew and the Aramaic means to reverence. So reverence talks about submission. When a circumstance arises and you are afraid of it, you have submitted to that fear. And whatever you submit to becomes your God. That's what you reverence. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. It sounds crazy. It sounds too simple to be true. But that is the thing that controls you. Yes.
And I don't mean to throw you off, but what about when it says
Don't worry, you won't.
A wife must submit to her husband? Is that a different definition or something?
Okay, let's put a pin in what I'm talking about and let run over to that, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we're over there now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're in Ephesians. When it talks about a wife submitting to her husband, it is talking about the feminine energy and the masculine energy, which is the seed, coming together. And the submission is not submission in terms of the masculine telling her what to do and manipulating and controlling her, but is a submission as in a womb receiving a seed, submitting to the reception of the seed. Okay. And when that seed is received, it is up to that womb to nurture it and to bring it to life. That's what it's talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not talking about submitting in that sense.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Where are you again?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're in John 11 and 25.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, are there any other questions? And I know I'm moving fast. I don't intend to, but I'm reading and I see it. Okay? So, when Jesus says, your brother shall rise again, he's talking about you go get, he's talking about to stand up. He's not talking about what Martha thinks he's talking about, the resurrection in the last day. Now, I want you to notice something here. Martha does not say the resurrection in the last days. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
She says last what?
Day.
That's significant. Because we are constantly talking about living where? In the last what?
Days.
Days.
Yeah.
Day is talking about when she say last days, it is talking about a sense of reckoning, when everything was given account of its existence. That's what she's talking about. She's talking about a period when we move from this place of congealment to a place of enlightenment. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So it is significant that she says last day as opposed to last days. It was something else that I intended. I intended to bring into play here. This is the same. When Mary washed Jesus' feet, mm-hmm. and they talked about this money could have been spent for something else as opposed to this perfume to wash his feet. And Jesus talks about it's okay for her to do this because I'm not going to be with you long. He's telling the disciples that I'm getting ready to transition through a door, and what she is doing is recognizing the divine breath that brought me into existence, and respecting it. And if you notice that Jesus also, she washed his feet, but Jesus also washes the disciples' feet. Mm-hmm. That's also significant. And when Peter says, rebels against him washing feet. And Jesus said, this must happen. Why? Because if I am doing this and I'm your leader, I'm your teacher, then you should do it also. The master is not greater than the student. In other words, he is showing here what is meant by those who would be a minister must be a servant. Those who would teach must serve first. That's what he is showing an example of. And he's doing this because he wants them to understand when I am gone, rather than battling with each other about who's going to be in first place or who's going to lead, you should submit to each other so that you can become the teachers that you're supposed to be. And by virtue of you loving each other, that is how people will know that you are my disciples. That's what all that's talking about. It's bringing all that together. Okay? Now let's run back down here to where we were in verse 25. Jesus says unto her, unto Martha, he says unto her, Ani, Numa, wa, Haye. I am the resurrection and the life. And the reason I said in the Aramaic is because ani is very important. There is not a word for am in the Aramaic. It is I. What he's saying is, I am a place, a resting place, a place of repose, a place where all things come together. And I am the life energy to bring them together. What he's saying is, when he's I is talking about when you connect to the I, the greater I. It's talking about the sense of recognizing that for explanation purposes, that the lower self connects to the higher being. Can you see that? That the sense of who we are in the lower self, recognizing the necessity in connecting to the higher being. And when we are connected to the higher being, or when we become aware of that, and we begin to act in that way or walk in that way, then what we begin to recognize is that we become the resting place. We become a place where all things are together, as in when Noah rested and he brought self, meaning all of those different parts of him, the animals, into one place. You begin to recognize who you are. You begin to understand that your different thoughts and ideas must be purified, must be brought together. And the way you do that is through the life energy, which is the life part of what I'm talking about. You have to recognize that you are one with that. So when Jesus says that, it talks about the I, he's talking about how we are able to do what he did. Because he does say that not only will you do what I have done, but greater things, remember?
Yes.
So he's telling them how to do that. The way you do that is by recognizing the connection or the oneness that you have with the greater I. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. Now, you may say, how do we know that we are doing that? Well, I can't tell you how you know you're doing it. You have to know it. You know within yourself whether or not you are walking along the path of enlightenment. You know that by your daily trek, your daily walk. You know what's going on in your individual lives. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you know whether you are enlightened or darkness. When something happens to you that seems to be out of the ordinary, you know whether your response to that is light or darkness. Craig and I went to Atlanta the day before yesterday, and on our way back, the truck stopped. and it had to get alternated in the battery. But, and there were some things in between, and I'm not going into it because it's a long story, but the point that I'm trying to make is, when I was talking to my friend Lolo and telling him what happened, I said to him, that is the best thing that ever happened to me. And if I had it to do over again, I would not change it. Being stuck in a parking lot at night, nowhere near a place to get any tools or anything to do the work with, I would not change it. Because it gave me an opportunity to see what happens in your life, how your life is orchestrated when you recognize the light that you are. It stopped. Nobody was around. Man pulls into the parking lot, walks up to the door. I say to him, I need some pliers to tighten the battery. He said, not to worry. He goes over, he jumps us off. We get to the light, we cut off. We out of it, trying to get it to the side of the road, man shows up. Two pushing it is better than one. We find out what's going on. The man says, get in the car. I'm going to take you to the parts store. We go to the parts store. On the way, I found out something. And this is one of the things that was really, really important to me. This man says to me, we began to talk about some events. And guess what? One of the things we talked about, Haiti. And how the reason Haiti cannot move beyond where it is because darkness masquerading as light is constantly going into Haiti, making profits for itself. But anyway, he says to me, you know what? It's good to be around somebody who is aware of what's going on in the world. He says, I believe that there's only one God and one man in terms of mankind. He says, I believe that the universe brings everything to you that you need when you need it. I'm like, whoa, okay, I can see that. Now, so you see why I say this is the best thing that happened to me. Plus, I got a chance to see where my son is in terms of the understandings of what I teach. Because at the end of it, what happened is we end up getting the battery room. We went through some stuff to do that. I'm not getting into that. But we end up back at I go back to the store because I want to find out whether it was the battery or the alternator. So I get the man to check it. It was the alternator. So I said, okay, I need some tools because I need to change it. He gives me a bag of tools. I walk out to the truck, let the hood up, take the wrench out. This guy walks up, throws the bag of tools on the top of the motor, and proceeds to take the alternator off. He takes it off and puts the other one on and says, have a safe trip. So I'm standing there thinking, okay, I need to understand whether or not I need to accept this as light making provisions for me, or whether or not I need to make provisions for him in terms of finances. So I had just a few dollars in my pocket, but I gave him the cash that I had, and when we got in the truck to leave, Craig says to me, you know what, Daddy? You don't know, but you may have given this man his groceries, especially minimum wage. That was just a little money to you, but to him, you don't know what it is. You see where I'm coming from? So I wouldn't change any of that being on the side of the road. Now, why do I go through all of that? Because there was every opportunity in that circumstance to allow the circumstance to control me. It was every opportunity to allow the circumstance to control Craig. Now, this is the difference. Craig did not get excited about it, or it didn't bother him. You know why he didn't? Because he was with his daddy.
I got that.
And his daddy was making decisions that was moving him. And he saw constantly my asking, okay, what do I do next? Not asking in terms of being perplexed by it, but searching for direction. Mm-hmm. He was with his daddy. And his daddy was with his daddy. Mm-hmm. You see the difference?
Yes.
The I was in operation at that point. That's how it operates in our lives constantly, if we allow it to. But what happens is, if we get all perplexed by it and bent out of shape, then we end up having to deal with it on our own, because as Sheldon once said, the universe does not differentiate between whether or not you meant it the way that you meant it. It deals with how you respond or what you say. Period. That's how everything. That's how you create the world that you live in. And we're always talking about that's your world that you live in, right? Mm-hmm. That's how you create the world that you live in. So I choose to create a world of enlightenment by virtue of recognizing that circumstances are brought to me to strengthen me. Now, this is the other thing that I want to bring forth to you. Every circumstance in your life, every situation in your life, everything that you deem to be bad, evil, unright, or however you want to term it, when you deal with it in a proper way, when you respond to it the way that the Creator intends, when you do that, you are not just getting rid of your baggage. You are also helping mankind to get rid of its baggage. Because we are one. We are of one blood. Is that not what the scripture says? Mm-hmm. One blood. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. Is that not what the scripture says? Yes. So if we are one blood, and blood is indicative of material life, then the spiritual life is in that material life, then we are of one spirit also. That's who we are. So what we say and what we do has an effect on everyone and everything. It's the butterfly effect. Are you with me? Yes. So when we deal with our baggage, we are also dealing with the baggage of mankind. That is one of the reasons when we began to teach, we began to see things that we teach in operation without us having to have taught the people who bring it into operation. Because it is put into the macro and it enters the micro. Now, let's move forward. Then Jesus says, whoever believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Now, I've heard that so many times. And I've always, you got a question, Ron?
Kind of an observation. Just
okay.
Want to talk about, I want to see what you got to say about resurrection, because I see it a little different now.
Uh-huh.
It talks about to stand again or to get up. But when you think about it, I guess when I think about it, I've always looked at it as you die physically and without choice or whatever, just how you live, you're resurrected. But this is talking about someone who makes the decision to die before you die, you see what I mean? So the getting up is, I intentionally laid down what I thought, what I needed to lay down, so that I could get up whole, or so that I can be made whole.
That's in when he says come forth.
Yeah.
That's what it's talking about.
So Lazarus' relationship with him is what caused this whole thing. So,
yes.
So he could get up.
So he could, yes.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about resurrection meaning to stand up, it does. But the root of that means to rest. That's what the root of it means. It is to give opportunity for everything to come together. That's what resurrection, that's what causes you to stand up. That's what gives you the life energy to stand up. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So are we being resurrected on a daily basis then?
It depends on how we respond to it. We have opportunity.
Yeah.
But see, you got to die before you die. And when you die before you die, that means that you don't allow circumstances to control and manipulate you. You overcome them. And when you overcome them, that is a sense of being resurrected. That's why you step back from things before you react to them. You step back so you can respond. Okay? Think before you speak. Right. That's the idea of it all. Okay?
So where does recovery of truth come in when you're talking about resting?
Recovery of truth comes in because what resting does, when it brings everything together, you have the life energy to move forward. and the truth is recovered within you. That's where it comes from. The truth that when Jesus says that I go to prepare a place for you, when he's talking about preparing a place for you, he's talking about making right a state of consciousness. And the state of consciousness that you get when you are resurrected is the consciousness of what truth is.
So is then resurrection and that resting an opportunity to introspect, to settle the chaos around you,
Exactly.
so that you're not distracted by it all?
Yes.
Okay.
And
yeah, because resting implies breathing too.
right.
So when you're breathing, you're making the connection.
And you're not, and what happens is, on the heels of that, you don't allow what's around you to become a distraction.
Yeah, you see a lot clearer
Yeah.
automatically.
And when we get to Lazarus coming forth, I want to.
But see, I just saw something when you
Okay.
talked about the I, then, and the motion that nothing ever stands still.
Mhm.
So even in the word resurrection, there is movement
Yes.
from
Yeah.
resting, and in that rest there are things taking place, to raising oneself up, which is because of the rest and because of recovery of truth, you have a higher consciousness of who you are, and all of that is not necessarily movement on the material level, but it's spiritual movement,
Right.
in a sense. And so that word resurrection is not just a word; it's a spiritual action in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yes. And see, everything that's spiritual is an action. Nothing stands still in the spirit. Everything is moving. Even in the material, everything is moving. It just appears to us that it's not. So
So the I then, which is the oneness,
yes.
because when as you were talking, I look at I am, and that verb is not just physical. It is was, is, will be, all of the tenses, and so it's movement.
It's constant movement, yes. And see, maybe it's the nomadic experience of the Semitic people that brought them to this place that nothing ever stands still. Because they were never still. They constantly moved the encampment to follow animals, whether they were hunters or gatherers or whoever the land. They were the sheep herders, etc. Maybe that experience was given to them so that they would not have develop a word to be motionless.
Then can you explain also, because it ties in, the concept of be still and know?
Yeah.
Because I
Listen.
see it as
I went there and began. It means listen and listen.
okay.
Be still means to listen, to pay attention to.
Okay.
Don't be distracted by all the things around you. That's what it means. Okay?
We kind of see this pass on a level, and we've talked about this before. We go to a graduation, we talk about a commencement exercise. And if you look the word up, what it's talking about is walking out of one thing and into another, walking into a new doorway. And that's how we're constantly moving from one door to the next, moving into something else.
Right.
So that you leave behind is the death that you choose to walk away from.
And see, I just let y'all talking. That's the whole thing that I'm dealing with. that's the whole concept that I'm dealing with. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. That's the literal understanding of that is, he that believed as I believe, though he died, before he died, he shall live. Though he were dead, yet shall he live. What he's talking about is being dead to those distractions, being dead to the baggage that you carry, the life that we are, that the living that Jesus is referencing is being expressive of the life energy, of the enlightenment, of the light that is before the beginning. That is at the beginning. Everything Jesus says relates back to beginning. Everything. And John definitely shows us that. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. See, everything relates back to that. So when he says that, if you believe as I believe, if you have confidence like I do, if you trust as I trust. Now, the question is this. What was he trusting? What was he believing? He was trusting the Father. He was believing the enlightenment. And let me interject this. There are people who, and I don't want to get into this, I just want to mention it so that you can think twice before if you do this. There are people who bash Muslims because of the Quran. This is what you need to know. That the Quran talks about Jesus and has more honorary terms for Jesus than it does any other prophet. That you need to know. It recognizes Jesus with a clarity greater than we ever did. So, before you think about bashing, or if you hear that, please understand what's there. Okay? Not that we should be bashing anyone, because our journey says that we are supposed to be light itself. I say that you're the light of the world. Okay. I say that, now I keep putting stuff out there. I say that you're the light of the world. It's not talking about drug addicts, pimps. It's not talking about that. The word world talks about diversity. I know you are the light for diversity. In other words, regardless of what you come in contact with or who you come in contact with, you're the light for it. That's what it's talking about. Okay. Then he says, whosoever liveth. First you got to die, right? Then you live. You see that? Then he says, whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Whosoever liveth. If you are expressive, if you are aware of the life energy and trust it the way that I trust it, you will never die. Dead in the Aramaic does not mean the end of anything. It means the disengagement of the breath from the body. And the disengagement of the breath from the body is talking about the disengagement of life energy, the disengagement of the divine breath from the body. And when the breath disengages from the body, it goes to another place. It goes, it joins the caravan that is going on before us. It goes through a door. It crosses a threshold. And it continues to move. And it continues to not only be in light, but to bring light. So that is the reason that Jesus was able to go to the mountaintop and get in rhythm with the Creator and summons Moses and Elijah. They were in the entourage that travels before us. They had gone on before us. But he was able to contact them for a teachable moment. Now, we look at that as no one can do that but Jesus. That was not the first time that was done. The rich at Endora did it when Saul requested the presence of Samuel. Mm-hmm. And Samuel's response to that was, why are you bothering me? Mm-hmm. Which indicates he must have been up to something, must have been doing something.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is that the idea of being dead is not the cessation of anything. It is the continuation of everything. You just dying to the contradictions and the confusions, the distractions. That's what you're dying to. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if death also is a separation, whether it's of the breath or whatever from the body. So shall never die, meaning shall never be separated from me.
Right, if you live.
If you live as I do, believe as I do, trust as I do, have faith as I do. The thing is, we take it so literally because we don't understand the Aramaic perspective. It says in me.